This is a blast that a British explosives expert believes blows a hole in the conviction of the so-called Lockerbie bomber.
I do find it quite extraordinary, and I think highly improbable, most unlikely that you would ever find a fragment like that. I mean, it is unbelievable.
There were 20 of these test explosions. Their conclusions will only intensify the controversy over who really bombed Pan Am 103.
I resent intensely the fact that I believe that I am now witness to a ragbag of lies and misconceptions surrounding this trial.
It's, if you like, material that comes at second hand, perhaps at third hand, through various sources.
At the start, the Americans had done their own tests to find where on the plane the bomb was placed. At that point, terrorists run from Syria with the suspects, and the theory, the bomb had been loaded at Heathrow. Many, most critical of the trial, say that's still the most plausible scenario.
The explosion occurred exactly when it would have occurred 38 minutes after takeoff if one of the Syrian devices had been used.
Flora Swire was 23 when she died on Pan Am 103. Her father says he's still waiting for justice.
At the beginning of the trial, I thought I was going to watch the conviction of two of the murderers of my daughter. By the end of it, I was satisfied that they were not involved. And although I'm sure the truth will come out at, say, 50 years, I want to know in my lifetime, I want this exposed for what I believe it to be.
George Bush Jr., during a phone call with Gaddafi in late 2008, even expressed his satisfaction that Libya has settled a long-standing dispute over terrorist attacks, including the bombing of a Pan Am jet over Scotland. Such inconvenient facts disappeared down the memory hole as the Anglo-American war machine sought justifications for its flagrant violation of international law in its determination to oust Gaddafi to gain control of Libya's lucrative resources. Western propaganda continued with the absurd and totally unsubstantiated claim that Gaddafi was personally providing his troops with Viagra to help them rape rebel women as a weapon of war. Despite Hillary Clinton and the International Criminal Court endorsing the Viagra rape story, the claims were quickly dismissed by human rights groups such as Amnesty International. The West has even been working with Islamic extremists in its war on Gaddafi, not, it's alleged, for the first time. In 1998, former MI5 spy David Shayler claimed that 2 years earlier, a group with links to Al-Qaeda had been paid £100,000 by the British government to assassinate Gaddafi.
So we're talking about something like about £100,000 to fund the assassination attempt against Gaddafi, which of course all comes from the British taxpayer.
Britain's agent Tunworth was a part of the conspiracy. He became SIS's link with the militant Islamic group, a hardline organisation headed by Abdullah as-Sadiq. In the past, several Arab countries have said that Britain is harbouring Islamic militants. With its large Middle Eastern community, London has become an alternative political capital for the Arab world. Libya has publicly accused Britain of giving refuge to the leader of the militant Islamic group. In response to our inquiries, the Foreign Office remarkably says it doesn't know if Abdullah as-Sadiq is in this country. Late in February 1996, the militant Islamic group went into action. They'd learned that Colonel Gaddafi's car was going to pass on a road near the city of Sirte. The terrorists had put a bomb under the road and waited. They set it off. Several bodyguards are thought to have died. In the gun battle which followed, 3 members of the militant Islamic group were also reportedly killed. Shortly after the attack failed, intelligence reports were received and sent back to London, where they ended up on David Shayler's desk.
In 1996, saying that an attempt had been made on Gaddafi's life, that in fact a bomb had been put under a car in a cavalcade. Gaddafi was travelling in the cavalcade but in a different car, so the explosion had gone off and there'd been various casualties, fatalities, but in fact they'd got the wrong people. Now, even then, I was still thinking, well, this could be a result of the Islamic extremist activity going on in Libya in general. I mean, there was another intelligence report, which wasn't quite as detailed, but this again was supporting the fact that the thing had happened.
A few days later, at the offices of an Arabic newspaper in London, a fax arrived at the desk of Kamil Tawil. In it, the militant Islamic group claimed responsibility for the attack. They also identified the members of its team who they said had been martyred in the bid to kill Gaddafi.
During the recent Libyan uprising, extremists with links to Al-Qaeda have been fighting amongst the rebels. Whilst for the last decade the West has been waging a war on terror, using the threat of Al-Qaeda to invade countries such as Afghanistan and Iraq, as well as an excuse to clamp down on domestic civil liberties, our leaders have been more than happy to turn a blind eye to the alleged existence of terrorists within the Libyan rebel army. Covert on-the-ground British assistance, officially denied, has been provided to the rebels since the early stages of the uprising. Indeed, some speculate that the uprising itself was planned and fomented by Western governments. It's been established definitively that a British SAS team, accompanied by an MI6 officer, were on the ground in very early March, a mission that resulted in humiliation after the troops were detained by rebels, shortly followed by a diplomat's plea for their release being unwittingly broadcast on state television.
We have been planning to send some officials to stay in Benghazi to liaise with you, with the National Council, but also to keep an eye on the humanitarian situation and see whether there is any medicines or food or things that we can provide for the future to help the people. And we sent today, ahead of those officials who were coming, we sent a small group just to find if there was a hotel, if everything was working and there was somewhere they could stay and work when we get our group organized. And I understand that they have, there has been a misunderstanding and they have been picked up by the security group who are concerned about their presence and who they are. And I hope to ask Mr. Jalil if he might be able to intervene to help us clear up this misunderstanding, if there's anything we can do to help explain who they are and what they were doing, that they're just trying to prepare for our mission which we would like to send out.
Actually, I started that already. I talked to Mr. Al-Jalil and about those people, and we contacted Benghazi, how they are and where they find them. Actually, they made a big mistake with coming with a helicopter, I think, in an open area. So I don't know.
Did they? I didn't know how they were coming.
Yeah, with a helicopter in an open area, so the people they note that there's some people coming down, and they
I'm not surprised. That alarmed them.
They talk them to and there's an investigation now going.
But help is on hand. Evidence for the first time of Allied boots on the ground. Here, a group of armed foreigners, possibly British, seen liaising with the fighters. It could be to facilitate forthcoming helicopter attacks. The men left hurriedly when they spotted us.
SAS personnel have played a critical role in advising and guiding the rebels throughout the war, culminating in their planning, alongside French, Qatari and Jordanian special forces, of the recent swoop into Tripoli. With SAS teams on the ground directing operations and NATO in the air running countless bombing campaigns against Gaddafi troops, the Libyan rebels have admitted that without such assistance, their uprising would have quickly failed. The war stands as a shocking example of Western military aggression. Controlled and directed by the Anglo-American establishment from its inception, it's made a mockery of international law, killed numerous civilians, cost taxpayers dearly during a time of economic hardship, and deposed the leader of a sovereign country who posed no threat to the West and who had even made attempts at reconciliation during recent years. Libya is now destabilized and much of its infrastructure has been damaged. We can only hope, considering the differing factions who make up the rebel army and the fact that Gaddafi and his loyalists have vowed to fight to the death, that the country does not now descend into brutal Iraqi-style civil war. As Denis Kucinich states, if NATO's top commanders are not held accountable in the International Criminal Court for civilian deaths in Libya, we have truly witnessed the triumph of a new international gangsterism.